In a world long before modern medicine and hospitals, people survived in the Appalachian Mountains for thousands of years with cures and treatments that were provided by the forest. But how and when did they learn this knowledge? This is the true story of Appalachia's Yarb doctors. The first medicine men of Appalachia were Native Americans. Through patience, study, and practice, they discovered the use of many medicinal plants by watching animals. As simple as it sounds, animals have always had a keen awareness of the plants of the forest. For example, sick bears grub fern roots when they're sick, and animals bitten by poisonous snakes know exactly which roots to chew, while birds know what leaves to eat during damp, clammy days. There was much to learn from them, and it was the natives who took the time and patience. Nature's provident plan had placed the necessary herbs and trees in the right place as needed. Every continent in the world has its natural herb remedies for ailments relative to that country. And being the fourth largest rainforest on planet Earth, the Appalachians were no different. A biodiversity hotspot with over 2,000 species of trees and over 6,300 plants. The Cherokees' doctrine practices embodied a mixture of religion, magic, and herbalism. Special dance rituals and chants accompanied this self-prepared herb medicine. Routines and specific root preparations varied with the type of ailment. Native medics were very spiritual. Every act and thought was colored and influenced by religion and magic. In this way, these medicine men administered their cures to the whole man, his body, mind, and soul. The Cherokees, who called these mountains home, had great reputations as healers. Healers of arrow and gunshot wounds wore a buzzard feather for identification, and those who treated poisonous snake bites wore a fox skin. These healers performed many great medical feats long before the white man ever arrived. Surgery, anesthesia, and delicate operations on the skull, such as removing pieces of bone, putting pressure on the brain from a warrior's crushed skull. While all plants and herbs of medical value were commonly used by the Cherokee, perhaps the most important of all were the 7 healing trees. The mighty spiraling spruce tree from the high altitudes furnished them with medicine for colds and rheumatism. The hemlock shared its tannic acid to heal burns and bleeding when applied as a pomace. The needles and shoots of the majestic white pine were boiled to make cough syrup, and the red cedar gave them ointments for insect bites and stings, and boiling its bark would rid one of the worms. The Fraser fir was used to heal the headache, while mountain laurel provided treatment for sores and the itch, and its sap was used to make ointment for stiff joints and muscle pains. All 7 of these evergreens were revered by the natives, and any time meetings were held where the chiefs from all clans were assembled, wood from all 7 trees would be burned in the council fire. So it was, after thousands of years, Native Americans learned the medical value of all of Appalachia's 2,000 trees and 6,300 plants. The entire forest was a pharmacy, and this knowledge was passed down for countless generations. However, the balance between man and nature would soon be thrown into chaos with the arrival of strangers who had traveled across the great waters from the other side of the earth, the white man.
Hey guys, JD here. Click the link below to check out my new book. It's full of stories just like the one you're listening to right now. And now, back to the story.
The arrival of the Europeans was well underway by the 1600s, with the establishment of the 13 colonies on the eastern coast of the United States. And over the next 100 years, they pushed further and further inland. By the 18th century, as lands in eastern Pennsylvania, the Tidewater region of Virginia, and the Carolinas filled up, these European pioneers continued to migrate west until the eastern flatland began to push upwards towards the sky. Suddenly, they ran into an impenetrable wall of towering mountains that ran from Maine to Alabama. Their peaks touched the clouds, and these were the majestic and mysterious Appalachian Mountains, still unknown to these new strangers. Yet, with no more land left down in flat country, these Scotch-Irish and German pioneers brought technologies, ideas, and plants and animals that were new to Appalachia, and they would transform the natives' lives. Guns, iron tools, weapons, Christianity, sugarcane and wheat, horses and cattle, and most importantly, diseases from the other side of the world, which the Native Americans had no defense to. Yet, these white pioneers would soon be searching for ways to deal with the unknown and frightening diseases that affected them in this new world, and they quickly adopted the Cherokees' herb-based medicines and healing stories. This native knowledge of medicinal plant use was of such great value and importance to early settlers that their survival in the Appalachians would have been impossible without access to it. These new Appalachians also brought with them their cures, their belief in the supernatural, and faith healing called folk magic, and recipes for ointments and teas from the old world. And soon, this knowledge merged with the knowledge of the Cherokee. These new medicine men were known as folk healers, granny women, midwives, mountain doctors, and to some, witches. However, 200 years ago, the most common name for these mountain doctors who used herbs was a Yarb doctor. You see, while those British across the pond called them herbs with an H, Americans called them herbs without the H, but Appalachians have always had their own dialect, and they called the roots and plants yarbs, and that's why they were called Yarb doctors. Now, that's a name that's mostly been forgotten. Soon, these Scotch-Irish and Germans began to form their own villages and communities. Most families learned how to dig and prepare their own herbs for common colds and coughs. Their woods, fields, and creek banks furnished all their needed medical plants, and since all of these plants were mixed with alcohol, every family had a small still on their homestead. Yet, there were many sicknesses that were beyond the ability of mountaineers to treat on their own. Practically every settlement had its own granny or Yarb doctor who were fetched when someone had a case of the miseries. The primary tool of these healers was their well-worn satchel bag. It usually contained cherry bark bitter for spring tonics, yellow roots and spice wood for teas, gold seal for stomach disorders, yellow lady slipper roots for nervousness, catnip and dock leaves for headaches, flaxseed and honey for coughs, and for broken bones, there was always a mixture made from bone set to lower the fever and help knit the bones back together. That satchel bag was actually a traveling drugstore. Practically all the wild plants used by Yarb doctors grew in the mountains. They used ground lily and boiled milk as an astringent. It was even said that Native Americans believed it was a love potion, and women would use pieces of this root and secretly place it in the food of the warriors they desired. Virginia creeper was used to cure alcoholism. Flannel leaf and velvet dock was used for many pulmonary ailments. They used liverwort for liver ailments and cough medicines. For the next 150 years, these Appalachians carried on and built upon the knowledge given to them by the Cherokee. Slowly, as the population increased, towns and even cities sprang up. These newcomers to Appalachia were unaware of the tradition of natural medicine, and they preferred college-educated doctors with sheepskins and book learning. And sadly, the general concepts of folk medicine and granny doctrine became grossly distorted, confused, and even mocked. Those city folks and their prescription pills viewed the Yarb doctors as nothing more than old wives' tales, or even witchcraft. But the truth be told, much of the medicine used by 20th century pharmacists was actually learned from the centuries of knowledge of compounding roots by Yarb doctors and Native Americans. Today, there are more than 200 drugs that were developed from plant life and discovered by Native Americans that are now listed in pharmaceutical publications. For example, both Cherokee and Appalachians chewed the bark of a willow tree that contains salicin, which is the main ingredient of aspirin, the most commonly used drug in the world. Natives also developed some of the first vaccines. They would purposely ingest small amounts of poison ivy to protect their bodies from the same substance in larger quantities, thus making them immune to the plant. And it was the natives who invented bottles and baby formula. Today, pharmaceutical and insurance monopolies rule the healthcare industry. They spend billions lobbying governments to pass laws for them and pay politicians and doctors behind closed doors. Much of the medical knowledge that was gathered by our ancestors after centuries of living in Appalachia has been lost or is hoarded by these massive drug companies who now hold patents on these treatments. All the while, they charge otherworldly prices for their medicines that cost them pennies to produce, using the ancient recipes discussed in this video. Yet, there is a massive movement among the common man that spans the entire planet, a desire to return to natural, organic medicines. For the first time in more than a century, people are seeking books about medical properties of plants and trees, and there is a growing community of people from around the world sharing knowledge, all contributing to a great awakening in the modern medicine world. And the same people who mocked the mountain doctors, granny women, and Yarb doctors, calling them foolish or witches or superstitious, are now reversing course. And now, these pioneers in medicine are finally getting the recognition, the honor, and the respect to all the contributions they made to our medical knowledge. And it's about time.